So it must have been frightening, I would say.
Yeah,
Frightening.
yeah, very.
I mean, there were hundreds. Anyone that's seen the footage, there are hundreds and hundreds of angry people. Some of them clearly intent on some form of violence, surrounding the building where you were meeting. Yet you went ahead. You entered the building. You had your meeting. Why do you care so much about this issue, the pro-life issue? Hello and welcome to another edition of the Evangelical Times podcast. My name is Mike Judge and I'm the editor of Evangelical Times. Now, right at the end of February, on the 29th of February, on Leap Day, there was a meeting of prolifers at Manchester University. But a mob of hundreds gathered round and became quite violent and quite aggressive, so much so that the police had to be called in. Today, I'm talking to someone who was there, a witness, a pro-lifer who went to the pro-life meeting. Harvey Taylor, thank you for joining us. Harvey, tell us, what did you see on that occasion when you went for that pro-life meeting? What was it like?
Well, the hostility started well before the first event. All of us that followed the account on Instagram, people went through the following list off that account, saw us and myself, and messaged us threats on Instagram. So I got threatened saying, join the pro-life society and see what happens to you. I've been told to get raped. Me as a man being told that, and so have the other girls that have attended this society. And I've also been told that the things that happened on the night were deserved, even though girls got threatened with rape, eggs thrown at us, physically threatened, spat on, I had water thrown on me. It's all deserved for a different standpoint, apparently. But on that night, me and some of my friends attending the event walked there. It was quite a trek. And when we got there, from across the campus, from the building that we were meant to be in, we could see a massive group of people chanting with signs, holding them above the head, shouting all of their chants and horrible names that they were calling the people that have already entered the building. So as soon as we got there, we could feel the hostility. We tried to go through a back entrance, and so did many of the protesters. However, it was locked. However, they managed to get through the gate and to the door. Thankfully, the door was locked and people couldn't swarm in. The security have already thought of that, I suppose. So after that, we went to the front, and there was a woman outside who was... I thought she was a pro-choicer about to do a speech, but it turns out she was also not part of the society, but pro-life. Everyone was surrounding her, hurling insults at her, hurling chants at her, calling her names. And me and one of the other lads there went up to her, and everything went silent. I guess they thought we were going to hurt her or something like that. We just shook her hand, and then we were called names. We called this, called that, virgin, incel, and all these very stupid names. Eventually, we did manage to get into the building, even before the meeting started, just whilst we were all arriving. It was so hostile and such a dangerous environment.
And do you have any idea about who these people were, the mob that was outside? Were they a range of different people? Was it all organized by one particular group? Do you have any idea about that?
I don't know 100% about the different groups and people who were specifically involved with organising it. However, there is an Instagram account on Instagram called Stop Pro-Life Manchester, I believe it's called. I've been blocked because of who I am and what side of it I'm on. So I can't see all of their posts. However, it was an organised event. There were people advertising it online, sharing all the posts and things like that, especially on Instagram. A lot of the students were sharing it on their stories on Instagram so it could get spread around. There were people from other universities like Metropolitan University in Manchester who were not only just attending the protest, but also a big part of it, with the megaphones, reading out speeches, etc.
So it must have been frightening, I would say.
Yeah,
frightening.
Yeah, very.
I mean, there were hundreds. Anyone that's seen the footage, there are hundreds and hundreds of angry people. Some of them clearly intent on some form of violence, surrounding the building where you were meeting. Yet you went ahead. You entered the building. You had your meeting. Why do you care so much about this issue, the pro-life issue?
Well, I didn't always care about it. I used to be pro-choice myself because people with the pro-choice position, they do believe that they hold the morally better opinion. They do want to help women. It's not like they hate people. As hostile as they can be to the opposition like us, and they can be very hateful and very horrible. And we've seen that just at the event before and especially after the event. A lot has happened since. However, they do want to help people. They do want to help women. However, they take a position that actually we believe compromises women, and I believe compromises women. It compromises the family as a whole, and especially, of course, the innocent child that, despite the circumstances, is given essentially what is a death penalty for its mere existence. And I become very passionate about it because thinking about the results of this, what it's led to, people not valuing family, not valuing children, people having less children because they feel like they're safe from a pregnancy, and that the superpower of giving birth that a woman has is no longer seen as a good thing. So I have my religious views on it, but also looking at the science showing that the embryo is alive at conception. 95+% of biologists agree. And realistically, things don't grow if they're dead. So it has to be alive.
And so you're a member of the Pro-Life Society, and it's not just about abortion, is it? It's also being about pro-life towards the end of life as well. Euthanasia, assisted suicide, a lot of pressure to go down that road as well. Why is there so much hostility to those who hold that position? I mean, I understand there are students on campus that might have a variety of different views. Why are they trying to shut you down, and why are they trying to cancel you?
Well, bad is called good and good is called bad in society nowadays, unfortunately. And they're trying to shut us down because they think that they have the morally superior position and that we don't even have the right to even say our opinion, let alone hold an event and just express our opinion, which is something supposedly protected by law. Unfortunately, not as protected as it should be in this country, and that is shown by what happened at the event, the protection that we didn't have, etc. But they are not willing to hear out another person's perspective. Even the women there was a lot of women there, and who are part of the pro-life movement as a whole. They believe that women can only think one way, that men cannot have a say on this position, which is ridiculous. As a former fetus myself, I feel like anyone's opinion on this is just as fine to say as anyone else's. And this is something that we all need to talk about as a society, or else we get so extreme on either side that we cannot find a healthy middle ground. We can't even discuss these things. So it's a very, very scary path that the country's going down.
So when the meeting ended, you had to be escorted out by the police. The police had to hold back the mob. I understand that some pro-life students were actually being followed by some of the activists, and so they had to be escorted away by the police. And I believe I read in one news report that a 22-year-old woman who was pregnant and who attended the meeting, she had to be taken home by the police in a police van she was so scared for her own safety and the safety of her child. Just describe what it was like walking out the building in front of this mob.
Well, we all remember it very well. It's very hard to forget what happened in just them couple minutes of all of us walking out and getting past the police and the police holding everybody back. It was a very scary experience. We were all waiting at the top of the building to collect all of us together. We all walked downstairs and we had to wait a couple of minutes to make sure that police outside made a pathway for us. And once they did, they opened the doors, we walked out. We tried to be as calm about it as possible, which is very hard with people standing there, screaming at your face, trying to get in front of you, throwing eggs at us, spitting on us, threatening us, calling us all kind of horrible, ridiculous names that aren't even what we are. And when we finally got through that very hostile, dangerous crowd, they were trying to push the police out of the way to get to us. We were on the other side of the road, making sure everybody was fine, and we were all together. Eventually, we started walking off when the police told us to leave, just so this could hopefully die down, because it was the police telling us how dangerous the crowd was. This isn't just our words. This isn't just us saying this. We were walking off, and eventually they pushed through the police, and The police couldn't hold everyone back, we understand. There was hundreds of them and only a few police people. So they were following us down the road, down Oxford Road. A lot of them kept on following the group, even when the group splintered off. That woman who went home, she was pregnant, and it was the police that took her home because of how dangerous the crowd was. And that certainly says a lot in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So are you planning to hold another meeting? Is there going to be another meeting on the university campus?
We're hoping so. We really, really do hope so. However, the Manchester Student Union, to the best of my knowledge, I believe it's a student union, certainly the higher-ups in Manchester University have said that we're not allowed to hold anything because of how dangerous it was, because of how big the protest got and how out of hand it became. Hopefully there can be something, whether it's an online call or preferably a meeting in person. However, the university doesn't want to deal with the massive protests again.
Well, one can understand the need for safety and the want to protect students on campus. One can understand that. But the danger of going down that road of saying, well, you can't have any more meetings, is that just gives the mob a veto.
Yeah.
And it just encourages the mob to say, well, the more protests you can make and the more violent you can make it, then you can actually shut down the meetings of organizations you don't like. And I would hope that there might be a bit more courage and a bit more resilience at the university authorities to say, look, you might not agree with everyone's point of view, but we've got to have freedom of speech because of all places, universities should be places where you can debate ideas, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But unfortunately, apparently not. But a lot of us have been saying that the universities are a place where people can express themselves, can express their political views and views on social issues such as abortion, such as many other very controversial topics. And as controversial as they are, if these aren't talked about, then it will just become a very dangerous echo chamber, which we have seen by this echo chamber becoming so dangerous as to threaten members with violence, physical violence, verbally threatening us and being horrible to us, and even threatening rape against many of the women there, which is absolutely disgraceful. So is this a kind of environment that universities want? I should hope not. However, not enough is being done to make sure that these things can't happen in future.
Yeah. Have you had a lot of support from prolifers from around the country getting in touch with you, getting in touch with the society, just to give you some encouragement and some support?
Yeah, it's been incredible. It's been very amazing. I've had private messages. I've had private messages myself, as well as many of the other members. Of course, the account on Instagram, the Manchester Pro-Life account. We've had many charities message us, private messages saying how great this is and how we must continue. It was incredibly uplifting because many of us were not questioning our stance, but questioning if we even want to talk about it in future, just because of the danger that we faced in person and for the persecution that we have received since. So it's been very uplifting. It's great that there is a community out there.
Do you still feel a little bit at risk? I mean, even you're speaking to me now on this podcast, you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your face, your name out there. I'm conscious that you're being very courageous in doing that. Do you still feel a little bit at risk?
I appreciate that very much. And I'm going to be honest, it has been something that has very much scared me, even appearing on something like this. However, if we aren't standing up for what's right, if we are not standing up for what we believe, then what are we? We're not being men. We're not being protectors. We're not standing up for the people who cannot stand up for themselves. And in this case, this is people in their most vulnerable state in life, and that's before they're born. Even though they're alive, people want to take their right to life away. If we're not standing up for that, then we have no backbone, and society is just going to get even worse over time. I think pro-life students everywhere, especially in universities, should be steadfast in their beliefs and standing up for what is right. Because just as people in the past have stood up for what is right, just as people will continue to stand up for what is right, we also must be them people. If we leave it to someone else to do it, then it's possible that nothing will get done. So we need to take a leap of faith for doing what's right, protecting the most vulnerable, and we need to stay strong, we need to stay together, we need to help each other through this because most of society is against us in this. But we must carry on.
Well, Harvey, thanks for talking to us. You take care of yourself and you stay safe. And if you would like to know more about these pro-life issues and about what happened in Manchester at the end of February, then you can read articles on our website. That's the Evangelical Times website, evangelical-times.org.